Hello guys, welcome back to another Genshin guide. Today's focus will be on Rosaria because she's an amazing cryo support user who gives her own crit rate to her teammates and is amazing at applying a lot of cryo at once. So yeah, that's basically all. This is not going over main DPS Rosaria, sorry for all the main DPS Rosarias out there. This is just strictly a support guide because most people play her as a support. Now let's get right onto the talents. Now her elemental skill will actually teleport her behind the nearest enemy. It will do an instance of cryo damage right when she teleports, and it will do another instance of cryo damage when she slashes. Now this ability is also pretty cool because it only has a 6-second cooldown, so you can actually use this really often. And then along with that, one of the passives is after using her elemental skill, it will increase Rosaria's crit rate by 12% for 5 seconds. I'll actually talk about this passive again in just a little bit once I get done talking about her burst. Now her burst basically just throws on a giant lance that will repeatedly do cryo damage every few seconds. And this is where most of her cryo application will actually come from. So it showed you 2 instances of damage when she uses the skill, but then the lance damage over time will actually be the 211% at level 8. Now along with her second passive, after using her burst, it will increase the crit rate of all nearby party members except Rosaria by 15% of Rosaria's crit rate for 10 seconds. The crit rate bonus gained this way cannot exceed 50% though. So actually what you want to do is use the elemental skill and then the elemental burst right after so you can get the maximum crit rate bonus that you can to your teammates. And it will also just help generate particles, so right after you use the burst you already get some coming in. The cool thing about her elemental burst too is that her energy cost is only 60, so it's an average energy cost, so it shouldn't be too hard to get this burst over and over. And just in case you did want to know, during nighttime, your movement speed of your characters will be increased by 10%, but it doesn't take place in Domain, Spiral Abyss, weekly bosses, you get the idea. And there you go, that's basically all for her talents. Honestly, both of these talents can be lowered up at the same way. It honestly really doesn't matter unless you just want to go for a lot of burst damage, because her burst does do a pretty good amount of damage at the start and has high damage over time scaling as well. So either one to level up first is fine. Now let's take a look at the Constellations because these Constellations help improve her gameplay and also help it be more useful in certain teams. Constellation 1 is when she hits a crit, her normal attack speed and normal attack damage will be increased by 10% for 4 seconds. So this is just mainly for main DPS Rosarias. If you're a support Rosaria, you're not really going to use this at all. Now her Constellation 2 is actually really good for supports because this Constellation will actually increase the duration of a burst by 4 seconds, which will allow 2 more instances of cryo damage to be done on the field. So that's actually a really nice Constellation and is really similar to Zhang Ling's C4. So this will majorly help you have less of a downtime on her burst. Constellation 3 increases the scaling of the elemental skill. Her Constellation 4 is if her elemental skill crits, it will actually generate 5 energy for Rosaria. But if you crit twice with the elemental skill, it will only still generate 5 energy. But this is also pretty good for support Rosarias just to help out the rotations to feel a lot more fluid and easier to do. Constellation 5 increases the scaling of the elemental burst. And then finally, her C6 does make her more useful in physical teams because her elemental burst will actually decrease physical resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. So you can put Rosaria on your Razor teams and even your Eula teams to fill up your Eula and help her do more damage. And there we go, those are just quickly all of her Constellations. Now I definitely say her best Constellation is C2 because it's amazing how much more damage you can do with this and it will help decrease the downtime you'll have with the burst, and it's just really helpful. But other than that, you don't really need all these Constellations, but the C2 definitely does make her way better. Now let's talk about weapons for Rosaria. Now Rosaria can actually utilize a lot of weapons, so I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on the best weapons you should be using on your Rosaria. Of course, one of the best weapons for Rosaria is the Favonius Lance, which I'm actually holding right now. It helps to get that energy back for her burst, and it will generate even more energy on top of that for a whole entire team if she does hit a crit, which she really should because you're going to be building a Rosaria all around crit rate just to help boost out your team the most you can. You could also use weapons like the Catch or Wavebreaker's Fins if you just want to increase her burst damage by a crap ton. If you don't have a Raiden Shogun or a Zhangling leveled up, then this could be a pretty nice option for you to use, but it is more useful on those characters, so I would still recommend using Favonius Lance over the Catch or the Wavebreaker's Fin. Now another one of the best weapons is Deathmatch because the polearm actually has a crit rate substat, which as you know by now, crit rate is a big part of Rosaria's kit, so the more crit rate the better. So if you do find yourself having trouble getting that crit rate up to a nice number, you could definitely use the Deathmatch to just increase her crit rate and to just increase her attack by a little bit depending on how many enemies are nearby. And for some free-to-play options, there is the prototype star glitter, which you can craft at each blacksmith in every region, which will have an energy recharge substat. The passive is going to be pretty useless if you're running a support, so you're just mainly going to be running this weapon for its energy recharge. Now, I don't really recommend this spear unless you want to use it in a very specific case where if you're running a Pyro Cryo team and you want insane Cryo burst damage on your Rosaria, because it will increase the elemental mastery by a lot. It will also increase the elemental skill damage by 60% and give her some energy back after using the elemental skill too. So it's pretty alright. I wouldn't really recommend it unless you really do want to run it in a Pyro Cryo team all day every day. So for the 4-star options, I definitely go with Favonius Lance at top, and then Deathmatch second unless you really need crit rate, because that weapon is mainly only going to be used for its crit rate stat, so if you are low on crit rate, then use a Deathmatch. Other than that, use Favonius Lance. And then you can use something like the Catch Wavebreaker's Fin if you want to increase the burst damage by a crap ton, and then you can use the Prototype Star Glitter if you need energy recharge and you just don't have any other weapon for it. Now for 5-star polearms, there are 3 weapons that I really want to talk about out of this selection. Of course, we have the Staff of Homa, which has an insane crit damage substat and an amazing passive, and it's one of the best weapons in the game, so if you don't need any crit rate anymore, and you feel like you're doing a lot of damage and just want to do even more, then put on the Staff of Homa because it'll help greatly. But honestly, for Rosaria, I think the Primordial J-Wing Spear will be a little bit better because it does have a crit rate substat, and as you know, crit rate is very needed. Skyward Spine is actually also pretty nice because it does have an energy recharge substat, and on top of that, its passive will actually grant 8% crit rate as well. So that's why it's also one of the best weapons for her. And there we go, that's basically all for the weapons. Now let's start talking artifacts. Now honestly, there are a lot of artifact combinations that you can do with Rosaria, so I'm just going to be quickly going over each set and combination and see which one will best fit your needs. Now since Rosaria does increase the crit rate of your teammates, you might as well also increase the attack of your teammates as well. So if you don't already have a Noblesse user on your team, then I highly recommend that you put on Noblesse for your Rosaria, because it'll increase her burst damage, which is great for her, and will also give 20% attack to your entire team after using her burst. This set fits with her very nicely because now you can just use the elemental skill, elemental burst, and then increase the crit rate and the attack of your entire team. But if you don't have an extra 4-piece Noblesse on you, then you can run 2-piece Blizzard Destroyer, 2-piece Noblesse, or a 2-piece Blizzard Destroyer, and 2-piece Gladiators. Both of those combinations will just increase the cryo damage bonus since she is cryo, and if you choose Noblesse, it'll increase the burst damage, but if you do choose Gladiators, you will also just get a flat attack boost, which is also pretty nice. Any way you want to go with this one is fine with me, just as long as you choose the one that has the best substats for you. You don't just want to try to go for the right set bonus, but then neglect your substats because that will hurt your character massively. So whichever one of these combinations has the best substat for you is the one you should be choosing. And the last one I talk about is Emblem of Severed Fate. Now this artifact set is pretty nice if you want to increase the crap out of your burst damage for Rosaria. Although it is the least used, I can see this being used very nicely on Rosaria to help increase like melt numbers to do insane burst damage, especially if you're already running her on the Catch or Wavebreaker's Fin, because that would just make her burst damage go crazy. So this is definitely a good idea if you want to run a burst damage support Rosaria. Now the main stats you should be going for on your Rosaria, there are actually a good amount of ways you can go for the sands. You can go for attack percentage, energy recharge, or even elemental mastery if you want to go in certain teams. If you feel like you don't have enough energy recharge, then definitely go energy recharge sands, but for me, since I'm running Favonius Lance, I'm actually running attack percentage. And if you're only running a Rosaria in like Pyro teams, then elemental mastery can definitely be a good option for you, just to increase that melt damage by a crap ton, but this could be very situational and for only certain teams. So for the best overall build, you'll probably want to go attack percentage or energy recharge. And then for the Goblet, you'll want cryo damage bonus. And for the Circlet, you actually want to be running crit rate, because you want to give as much crit rate as you can to your team. Unless you're already at the cap to give your teammates 15% crit rate, then you probably should be running a crit rate Circlet. And for substats, you're probably going to be running crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, elemental mastery, and attack, because all of those will just help your Rosaria do more damage. And there we go, that's basically all for the artifacts. Now let's talk about teams. Rosaria is amazingly good in melt teams and freeze teams. So I'm just going to show you a few of the teams and some key characters you can pair up with your Rosaria to enhance her damage and utility. Now you guys have probably seen this team here and there along the internet, but it's actually super amazing. Kaeya is actually the main DPS in this team, and this boost does tons of cryo damage in combination with Ling to help puck off major melt hits. And then on top of that, Rosaria will apply more cryo for even more melt damage and increase the crit rate of a whole entire team. And then Bennett's here because he's Bennett. You know what he does, he increases the damage of every single unit in the game by a crap ton, so of course he's in here. And for freeze teams, Rosaria is really good to pair up with Mona and Venti and Xingqiu because these two Hydro characters apply a lot of Hydro, which means infinite freezes because Rosaria also pops off a lot of cryo as well. And then Venti or Kazuha can also be in here because they will swirl up all the elements, freeze everyone instantly, and keep everyone in place so that all the enemies are permanent freezed, permanent stunned, and they just cannot do anything. And then of course, since she is cryo, she does pair nicely in physical damage dealing teams, so if you do want another electro unit like Lisa, Beidou, Wade Shogun, or someone like that who can apply a lot of electro, she's really good for those teams who have a physical main damage dealer. And also Diana's really good with Zarya because they can both heal up each other very nicely and just help your rotations feel more fluid. So yeah, that's basically all for Zarya teams. Alright, it's time for a little bit of a showcase. Now of course, before I do showcase her off, I want to show you guys all the stats I have on my Rosaria. My Rosaria has 1,529 attack, her crit rate is 59.4, with a crit damage of 95.9, energy recharge of 158.3, and a cryo damage bonus of 61.6. Now I'm actually going to do a showcase 2 times. I'm going to showcase her in the freeze team, and then I'm also going to show her in a melt team, which you'll see a lot of pyro characters and cryo characters working together to do a lot of damage. So first I'm going to do the melt team, but I also just want to show the increase in crit rate that will actually happen once I use Rosaria. So my Jingling's crit rate is actually at 52.8 right now. So I'm just going to start up this, get everyone's burst up, and get ready to do a lot of damage. Okay, so I'm going to use Bennett's burst, Diana's burst, elemental skill, elemental burst, and I'm going to check my Jingling's crit rate. Her crit rate is now 63.5, so that's a good amount of increase of crit rate. And then I'm going to use my Jingling's burst, and now as you can see that there's a lot of big melt numbers going on right now. And now I can just slowly start resetting the pattern to do even more damage right after. And there we go, that is basically Rosaria in a melt team. Now in a usual melt team with Rosaria, you'd actually replace Diana with Kaeya, but I don't have a Kaeya leveled up at all, so I had to use Diana, but it still honestly did really good. Now I know this team setup isn't the best for an actual freeze team, but I don't have a Ganyu or Ayaka, so this will actually have to do. So as you can already see, it's doing wonders by having Mona and Rosaria on a team, because they can both freeze the crap out of every single person. So I can press Mona and there you go, look, they're just permanently frozen now. And I can also use Mona's burst, freeze them again, and then start the whole entire process all over, because I already have her burst, already have Diana's burst, and you basically get the idea. These enemies could not move the entire time we were here. So that is why Rosaria is also amazing in freeze teams, because she's a very fast cryo applicator. And there we go, that's pretty much all for the Rosaria guide. As you can see, she does repeated massive cryo damage over long periods of time, can help majorly in melt teams and freeze teams, and help buff your whole entire party. So I hope you guys learned what talents to level up, artifacts, weapons, and teams to put her in. And that's basically all for me. I'll see you guys in the next video.